All right. So I'm going to reduce the video to speaker. So we're going to talk about how to get your first 10 enterprise customers, and just a little bit about me. Um, you know, I have a consulting company called Startup Strategies, where I work as a coach, mentor, advisor to many startups. Focus for me is B2B, and I work as both, sometimes acting CEO, sometimes acting head of marketing, sometimes strategy. So whatever works for the companies, I help them in that area. I have been lucky that I've had 4 exits. Took one company public, 3 were acquired, 1 didn't make it. And my passion is teaching and mentoring entrepreneurs. I also teach at UC Berkeley and Northeastern University. Um, and in fact, I just finished my class a couple of hours ago, where I teach a class on marketing and sales for entrepreneurs. So with that, let me just tell you about what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about 6 steps to building a B2B sales engine. And obviously, we'll talk about nothing is hard and fast in business. Things keep on changing. So where are they today? What am I supposed to do? So the first thing we're going to talk about is target accounts, target personas, basic tools of the trade, lead gen, lead nurturing, and creating a process. Everything about marketing is about knowing your customer. You will read many, many marketing books that will give you 20 techniques and 40 ways to Sunday of how to do something. But I think that's all bogus. If you don't understand your customer, everything else doesn't matter, because every piece of investment you're going to make is going to be wrong. So let's talk about that. So like I said earlier, we're going to talk about B2B as opposed to B2C. B2C is, business to consumer directly. All of us, are consumers of something or the other. We watch lots of ads, a lot of companies sell to us. But B2B is not something that we encounter every day as consumers. But I thought I'll give you an equation of B2B. What is B2B? B2B is a combination of B, that is business, and a B2C. Why? Where C is a team of people. So if I'm selling to consumer, I don't sell to a team generally. Maybe sometimes, like if I'm selling a car, I probably have to worry about, not just the husband, but also the wife and the kids and all the other situations around, right? So when it is an expensive product, it becomes a family decision. But guess what? In business, every decision is a family decision. The family happens to be the employees who work there, who might be involved in that purchasing cycle. So we are going to first talk about what is the type of business I should be selling to. And then we're going to talk about the people that comprise that business and how are we going to sell to them. So the first component of understanding your customer is the size of the industry segments, what is driving them. And then we'll talk about the consumer, why, how many, what is it that is driving them, okay? So the first thing, what is the right business for what is the right B that I should choose as my customer? Now, if I'm a startup and I am developing an enterprise product that is going to cost, let's say, $100,000 per year. Suddenly, I think suddenly the SMB, the small to medium sized market may not be right for me. Now, by the way, there are many, many ways people describe these markets, and this is not a hard and fast rule. Every company kind of creates their own segment. If you Google it, SMB is also called SME in EU. And in India, there is a very strict definition of what is an SME and all that. So don't worry about the definition. The idea here is to understand how to segregate, how to segment your market, and then figure out which part of the market is interesting to you and why. Okay. So SMB is generally small to medium-sized business, about revenue under 10 million, mostly, IT staff, part-time, number of people in the decision-making, maybe 1 to 2. In the US alone, there are 28 million businesses like that, by the way. 54% of the US sales are done by small businesses. The good news is their length of buying cycle is short. But the bad news is their budget is really small. So you have to figure it out. And because they don't have an IT staff, that means your product better be really easy to use. Then the next step up is a mid-market, right? You can start 100 to 1,000 employees, revenue of 10 million to $1 billion. They may have a small team of IT staff. Decision-making, probably team of 2 to 4. There are 200,000 of those people in the US. I mean, companies in the US. And then obviously in every country, there are many more. And the length of buying cycle can be long, maybe weeks. Then come the enterprise. Enterprise, on the other hand, 1,000 plus employees, annual revenue more than $1 billion. A lot of very sophisticated, large IT teams, decision-making anywhere from 4 to 10 people. Maybe only 1,000 companies qualify for that. Maybe 5,000 companies may qualify for that, depends, right? So approximately I said 1,000 because there is a different categorization for depending on your product. And the length of buying cycle is very long, could be in months. So now you are a startup who has to show some results. You have a funding for a year, and you have nobody in the enterprise that already is ready to buy from you, or there is no relationship in existence. I would say probably don't go there. However, your product doesn't work for small and medium-sized business. That automatically puts you in the mid-market, as an example. So the idea of this exercise is for you to start thinking, hey, what kind of a customer do I want to start with? Now, many times people think, gee, if I start with a small SMB customer, how am I going to build a company? Guess what? If you look at Salesforce, where did it start? It started as an SMB. Why? Because enterprises didn't want to buy from Salesforce because they didn't want to be in the cloud. They believed in themselves, they continued, then they went to mid-market. Today they are an enterprise play and they sell in every possible segment. So the segment you choose initially for your business is not the be all end all. You have to figure out where your success is going to be the best. Because if you don't show success in the short term, you won't be in business. Okay? Everybody with me still? All right. Second is choosing the right industry segment for your early success. Now, let's say you have developed a technology which requires, it's a cloud access and governance service. Suddenly I say, oh, okay, if that is what I'm looking for, or this particular example, you want to sell, you have a big data product that you want to sell. Now, suddenly you look at this segment and you say, oh my God, this segment not really worth investing in, i.e. the education K through 12. Even this segment, government, federal, yeah, not really. Manufacturing, probably still hard. But if I look at these segments where I have a product to sell, they use big data already, and I have a product in this segment to sell, maybe these are my better segments. So this is the determination you have to make. And now you have to understand the next step, but this is another step in your decision-making. Then you're going to go through the next step, which is what is the driver for a company, for a business to buy your product? Now, this is really important because remember, before you came into business, company was moving fine. They didn't need you. So what is it that is going to cause them to buy your product? So I call this 4 different reasons people buy products, or 4 different startups that exist in the universe. And you have to decide which one you want to be. Number 1 is insurance, meaning any company working in the security space, in the governance space, anything which makes the regulation work. All of those are sort of insurance startups, right? If many of you are familiar with GDPR, CCPA, when these things were coming in, there was a rush for so many companies to try to buy software to be compliant with GDPR. Now suddenly privacy is hot. There are so many break-ins that are happening, so security companies are doing really well. Everybody's working from remote. I needed to have a remote desktop so I can secure it. That's another insurance, right? But there is always some reason why an insurance company, an insurance type of product is going to be bought. Because there is either a breach, there is a worry about company's reputation, or any one of these things, or company has certain regulations that it has to meet. So that's number 1 reason, or one of the reasons for some startups. And there are many startups that are in this business. The second type of startup, which is probably the most common B2B companies that I see, are cost savings. Meaning you read there, they say, oh, I allow you to do this 30% better, 40% better, 50% better, whatever. Now, if you're doing cost saving, the probability that your customer has the same urgency that you have is very low. Why? Because nobody gets rewarded for cost saving unless the company has taken a very concerted effort to reduce costs. The other thing that a most common mistake I hear from entrepreneurs when they talk about cost saving is, I hear from, I'll give you an example of an entrepreneur I talked to about 5 years ago, and he came in and he said, my product is really good for enterprises. I said, okay, great. What kind of enterprise? Oh, very large enterprise. I said, all right, excellent. And tell me about, what kind of cost saving do you do? He says, I save almost 300% over what they're paying today. I said, wonderful, that's very good. And, at that point, people should be interested. Then I asked the next question. I said, the product that you are replacing, or in lieu of that they're going to buy your product, how much does that cost? Oh, he says $100,000. Now think about it. It's a $100,000 product. He saved 3x the price, right? He saved you $30,000. Wow. What's the budget of the enterprise IT? About 10 million plus. Do you think they care? No. He will not get attention from anybody. Just because you think your product has value means nothing. You got to put yourself in the customer's shoes and think, what is the value they see and how they look at the value? If, on the other hand, this was a product for mid-market where the budget was $1 million, maybe 30,000 might get some attention. But if their budget was even less and you save that kind of money, probably yes. The problem of cost saving models, like I said, 90% of B2B companies get caught up in this cost saving, is that you're always, because customer has no hurry. They can save the cost this year, next year, year after. So your selling cost is very high because you're always trying to find that driver. And the driver means you got to push, which means you need a lot of salespeople, which means your cost of sales go up. If there is a way for you to do business, convert it into what I call the new revenue. There is no company in the world that doesn't want more revenue. So if you can tie your message, if you can tie your company into how you help them get more revenue, you're more likely to make a success with almost anybody. That revenue is always a driver. Whether insurance is a driver or not, cost saving is a driver or not, revenue will always be a driver. Then there is another driver, which is social good. There are companies that are built on like trying to understand, hey, you know, some company has a mandate that they're going to buy X percentage of business from minority-owned businesses or women-owned businesses or, you know, Black-owned enterprises, whatever. And if you fall into that category, you have another way to get in and try to sell your product. And then there are other reasons as well, but we're not talking about nonprofits right now. We're talking about companies that are built for a profit motive. Okay. So far, so good. I'm going to just get on the screen again. Does anybody have any question on this before we go to the next? Anything that I've said that has not resonated so far? Everybody still with me? Yeah? Okay. So, so the next question comes up. Let's talk about, so remember what we said. So I'm going to share the screen again. I wish there was a way to do it like very fast, but it is not. So I'm going to go back again for a couple of slides just to sort of bring it back to you. So we said B2B depends on the B, size of the company, size of the customer, industry segments, and the driver for your selling. Now let's talk about the B2C part of it, where C is equal to team of people in this case. So let's look at their motivation. Now there are like, this might be one person having multiple roles or sometimes a team of people having those roles, right? There is always an initiator. Sometimes the initiator could be decider. Sometimes the initiator is merely influencer. But the point is there are different roles that you have to understand. If I am selling a product, which is a security product, most likely security architect might be my initiator because he or she might have an interest in trying to find out about the product. Yes, if you're lucky and you have very good relationships at the CISO level, i.e. Chief Information Security Officer, maybe you can start there. But that's a very long road. It doesn't always work unless you have already prior relationships. And then there is, once somebody initiates, it doesn't mean it is going to be bought, right? They're going to have a decider, and the decider might be a technical POC that is undergone in the process. They might want to do a proof of concept with your product. They might ask you to fill a request for proposal where there is a long document. You keep answering hundreds of questions, or there may be other questions. So the decider could be both a business person or a technical person or a combination thereof. Now, in most of the B2B, the user and the decider may be different. However, users matter. So I'm going to ask the user opinion. Is this product really good for you? When I told you to try it out in the POC process, maybe there are few users chosen to do that. And then there are many people who are in the selling cycle who are really influencers. This arrow, in fact, should be the other way because influencer tells the decider what to do. And then once the decider has decided, there is a whole lot of gatekeepers. The bigger the company, the more the gatekeepers. Gatekeeper may be CFO. Let's say I'm trying to sell some marketing automation software. The initiator may be the marketing person, maybe the salesperson, maybe the marketing ops person. Now there is a whole bunch of people that might be involved. IT department may be part of the decider, may not be. and there may be some sales people who are part of this, and there may be an SDR team, or there may be a demand gen marketing team, and so on. And then there are users of this product. Someone who is actually going to work the system. So you might take 1 or 2 people out of that who are actually going to use the system. And then there may be some people who are influencers who are not really, in this cycle because maybe the VP of sales who is merely influencer in the marketing automation, but doesn't make that decision. As soon as you have passed all these musters, you got to go to the gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper here might be the CFO. It might be the IT department. It might be the security team, which wants to make sure your software really passes a penetration testing, and so on. And the budget rests with the CMO, who is the one who is going to write the final check and going to approve the purchase. So the reason for telling you all this is that for every sale, these roles are going to be there. You got to figure it out how you find different players that are in this cycle, right? That is your role. And figuring it out how to get to them, okay? B2B buying cycle is no different because we are selling it to people. So in fact, Harvard did a study and they have a paper which talks about, they call it a Maslow's hierarchy. I didn't want to put their chart because it is really complex. So I've taken the sort of the meaning of it, but if anybody wants to see it, that link is available at the bottom. And for every sale, the first thing in a B2B you have to do is table stakes, right? You have to make sure the product meets the spec, the price is right, it's compliance with security, whatever is there. The second aspect is it has to have some technical and functional advantages, because remember, in the cycle, there was someone who was evaluating your product for technology. So you need to give them enough things to be able to say, yes, I like this product and why. Because if you don't help them sell your product internally, you will never make a sale. And then there is the operational and structural advantages. If users are involved and users don't like your product, even though they have no direct power, but they have the power to shut your sales down. So this is why it is really important that whoever is going to be involved in figuring it out, how this product is going to work, who all are going to use it, who is going to install it, you got to make sure you make all of them happy as well. And the part that none of us really realize, I think, which is most important, is the personal. Let me tell you what that means. So if I am a manager working in a company and I have to buy your product from a startup, what is going through my mind? 2 things go through my mind. Hey, first, can I trust these guys? And when I trust them, what is the risk I'm taking? What if they go out of business? What will my reputation be with my manager? And then I weigh the benefit. If I buy this product, can I really become a hero in my company for implementing this product early, which actually gave us so much more advantage against our competition or solved a very serious problem that we've had for a while? So I have my own goals. I want to get promoted. I am, as a buyer, I'm looking for how is this going to help me in my personal goals? And then same way, I have to figure out what are the risks I'm taking? Is it worth taking that risk? So a lot of times what happens is the following. We look at a company to say, what is the change? So if you're trying to sell, let's say, to an enterprise, and your buyer happens to be the CIO, the ultimate buyer is CIO, but they are considered a very stodgy company and there has been no changes. The same CIO is in business for the last 5 years, probably a wrong place to go to sell as a startup. If on the other hand, suddenly the CIO has changed in the last 6 months, that's a perfect place. Why? Because the new CIO now is going to shake things up, and he and she wants to make a name for themselves. So how do they make name for themselves? They look at new technology to deploy. And I'm assuming as a startup, you're working on something new, not something old. So you have a chance to come in front of them, but you want to look at their previous history to see, did they actually do that in the last company? Did they ever buy from a startup? Maybe they don't like to take risks. So the point I'm trying to tell you is you got to understand the psychology, both of the company as well as of the individuals you are trying to sell to. And that is a really important key. And so now, many times I'll go talk to startups and they say, look, but I don't know all this. And the answer is yes, you don't today. You will know some of it, but your goal in doing the first 10 sales is to figure out this process. So after 10 sales, you should be able to tell me all these. But before you do the first sale, you have an assumption and you are trying to verify. Like you may think your product will be bought by a CIO or a CISO, meaning CISO or CTO or somebody. But you do 2 sales and you find out that both of those sales were actually signed by CFO. So therefore you got to think saying, okay, am I making the right assumption? Because all of my marketing, all of my sales is going to depend on that. Okay. So let's talk about first step now. We're now ready. We have to build our target account list. The tools of the trade, list building, Zoom Info, Lucia, Lead IQ, Tech Target, LinkedIn. There are many, many tools, right, for the B2B. And sometimes, you can, if you know your LinkedIn ads, you can actually build a system whereby you throw a lot at it and then see what comes back. So there are times that we work with some clients where they can't really define their target account list. They want somebody to find out. So the way you find out is you create some experiments and you see what comes back. And the LinkedIn is a little bit better in the sense that I at least know the titles very well. I know their history. I can go look at each individual person and know a little bit more. But again, like I said, what list you build today in the phase 1 will continue to change and evolve. But this is the initial learning and assumptions you're going to go with, and then continue to modify your assumption as you learn. You're going to rate your accounts. Like maybe you've targeted a list of 500 accounts, but you cannot reach all 500, right? In the short amount of time you have. However, you also know that if you need 10 accounts, your conversion rate may be only 1%, maybe 5%, I don't know. But, it's generally industry averages are between 1 to 10. 10 being, the clients really, really well. You worked in that industry, you know everybody. Even then, it's 10%. And 1 is when you know a little bit, but you know 1 or 2, but not many. So in that case, I'm going to do a very different conversion, right? So if I want 10 accounts, I need at least 100 to start, maybe 1,000 to start. And then I need to rate my accounts. Where is the chance or the probability of my success higher? If I have the name of the person that I want to reach on my first degree LinkedIn, or I have their contact information, or I know them somehow, the chances are very high. So let's focus there first, because trying to get the first few customers is a key to getting any more. So therefore, you're going to rate your accounts, or if you're solving a problem which is very specific to, say you solve the problem of breach, and suddenly there is a breach at these 10 companies, you know that they are willing to talk to you. So this is another way of doing that. And like I said, it's not a one-time exercise, but it is something you have to do as a step 1. Step 2 is the time to build your target personas. Now, this is this is what happens in the end once I know everything about my customer, right? There is no way you could build this in day one. But you can at least target to build a persona to say, okay, my customer is in this segment, and here are the 3 titles that I have to work with within these companies. And then I need to figure out, hey, where do they hang out? Right? What are the likely keywords they might be searching somewhere? How do they want to communicate? What are their goals? What is their attitude? What are their problems? And try to imagine what is the day in the life of that person you're trying to sell to. And you will understand a lot more. And then see what are the barriers into the sales process. Step 3 is finding out the basic tools of the trade. You can't sell a B2B product without having the basic tools of the trade, right? First is segmentation. We talked about it, right? You got to segment who you are trying to sell to. Then you're going to develop your messaging, your unique value proposition, why somebody should care about you. This is an exercise that is probably one of the most difficult things you would have ever done in your life. Everybody thinks they know marketing until they start to develop a positioning statement, a unique value proposition, and then they realize, oh my God, it's not that simple. In fact, when I teach entrepreneurship class, we tell the students when they build their startup to come up with the positioning statement or their unique value proposition. And initially they write about 4 pages long. But the goal is they have to reduce it to 1 paragraph, sometimes to 1 line. And that is the hardest thing to do. But that has to be done. And doesn't mean it is going to be perfect first time. You will probably do something, you will do some testing, you will make changes, and you will continue to learn. Let's talk about other things on this list. I'll go one by one. So segmentation. I think the best thing I can tell you about segmentation is what this book said most beautifully. Riches are in niches. There is always a tendency for a startup to say, I am good for everybody, which means you are good for nobody. If you want to succeed, focus on a very small slice of the market where the likelihood of your success is high because, number 1, they have a high pain that you are solving. Number 2, they're ready to buy. Number 3, they have a budget. Number 4, somebody you are talking to has an authority to make a decision. We call that a BANT process. So it is really important. Don't try to conquer the whole market initially, please. In fact, if you look at Facebook, Facebook initially only started with Ivy Leagues. Then it started EDU only domain. Today, everybody in the world uses it. So when you segment and when you focus on a small segment first and try to conquer, that does not mean you can't expand. But if you don't segment initially and focus on a small slice of the market where you can succeed, you will not see the rest of the time because you won't be around. So if you want to succeed, go narrow. You can have a great vision. Nobody cares. Only investors care. Your customers don't care about your vision. They only want to know, what problem are you solving for me today? And then how are you going to take me to the next stage? Yes, that vision they want you to have. But more importantly, they want to know what is, if you don't solve my current problem, it's showing me great vision, who cares? So that's important. When you construct your message, always put yourself in your customer's shoes. Many times I see people come up with a message which is like a buzzword bingo that nobody understands. What did you really mean? Think of the problem that the customer is trying to solve and put yourself in their shoes, and that's how your message should be. Now, in order to develop your unique value proposition, these are the three things you have to answer. First of all, who is your customer? Is your customer someone who is a small business accounting person whose job is to do accounting? Or is it the CFO in a very large company? Who is your customer? The most clear you can define your customer, the better off you will be. Number two, what is the problem you're trying to solve? If I don't relate to your problem, I mean, if you don't understand my problem and you can't tell me that this is the problem that I have and you have been able to solve, then you're reaching a wrong customer. So you need to tell me what's the problem you're trying to solve for me. Sometimes it's not a problem. You're trying to create a new habit, or there is a new technology that has come in where customers can really benefit a lot because you can help them increase their revenue tremendously. That's fine too. That's the same thing you're answering. The one where we all falter, where we all make mistakes is, why are you good at it? Why should I worry about buying it from you? And sometimes, why now? I can wait. I am not in a hurry. How do you create that urgency? So there are many, many good examples of companies who really get this right initially and then continue to do better and better. But I find there are many, many bad examples where people continue to do mistakes on these three. And I don't think we have time to go into more examples, but you can watch some of my previous videos and we can send you some links where I've given you examples of some of the sites as to how they come up with these messaging. I think I did a three-part series about 4 or 5 years ago where some of that is there, and then maybe we might actually repeat some of that in the later part. But this is something you have to get it right. And oh, by the way, when you do your website, be very clear. I see many websites where there is no call to action. The reason you have a website is because, it's not a charity exercise. We're doing it because we want to sell something. And in a B2B, unless your product costs $10 to $20 to $100, nobody's going to buy it just like that. In fact, in the beginning, I don't even want them to buy automatically. I want them to talk to me because I want to learn. But I want to meet my intended purpose, which is lead gen. So I want to get your name. I want to get your contact info so I can reach out to you. And then it's important that your product works on all devices because your customers are probably reading them on their mobile devices. And so please make sure that it works on mobile device as well as it works on the laptop. Now, loading fast, because I know we are all impatient people. And this is one mistake I see many startups make because they hire the cheapest possible people they can find somewhere on, Upwork or somewhere. And then most of those people don't know. So the image itself might be so heavy. They thought they got a very cute image. They never compressed it. User experience sucks. People just leave immediately. So don't do those mistakes, please. It's better to invest a little bit, get the right designer, make your website look professional. Don't have spelling and grammar mistakes either. Okay. And then trustworthiness. A lot of times in a B2B, I'm looking for seeing if I can trust you. Sometimes if the company was started by someone who has got a great background, it helps. Sometimes you try to get some industry awards, that helps. Sometimes people put a stamp of a good business bureau or something else where it's a third-party testimonial. Sometimes it's just a press article. So you have to get some quotes, some things where it's not by you, it's by somebody else, so I can start to trust you. And then obviously, you got to make sure that you do the right things in terms of doing your SEO and search capabilities. We don't have time to talk about that in great detail, but that is something you should basically use a professional who does this for a living, who can help you with that. Social, in the past, we could get away with just doing a website. The world has changed. It doesn't work like that. But at the same time, you don't want to go and build all kinds of social presence either. If you're doing a B2B, most likely your users hang out on LinkedIn, maybe Quora, maybe some kind of discussion forums, maybe Crunchbase, maybe AngelList, maybe Twitter or YouTube. So figure out where you want to be. Not too many places, but only 1 or 2 places where you manage your presence, and make sure that your LinkedIn site and your Twitter site don't look different than your website. Because otherwise you're going to confuse your users. When they come into your website and suddenly they see you on LinkedIn, they think it's a different company. So make sure that you create that consistency. And depending on where your users hang out, it is a great place to find more users as well. And we'll talk about that as the next step, which is lead gen. So lead gen has various components. The 2 that people talk about a lot. First is the inbound marketing, which I guess from now on, I mean, in my mind, it has always been, but from now on, everything is digital. So that is the operative word, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And as far as the outbound marketing is concerned, it's like this. I have heard this many times that, people keep saying email is dead, cold, calling is dead. Guess what? That's all false. It still works. Cold calling still works. The only change is you got to make sure that you don't call cold as in totally cold, but some warmth has been created by some outreach that you've done prior to that. And no, email is not dead. Email is still the most important tool you are ever going to need as a B2B company. Try to get as many opt-in lists as you can. I don't have time to go into it, but there is a whole course I do on email marketing, because it's like there is a lot that goes on behind email marketing. Same thing with social outreach. Then the question comes of, how do you do your sales? You can do in-house. SDR, it stands for sales development representative, or BDR, business development representative, or something where you don't, you have your high expensive salesperson, but you have a lot of the lower level inexpensive salespeople that you really want to use to set the meetings, for example. And there are many outsourced SDR services. Most companies start with that. In the end, they all end up with in-house because they don't want to lose that skill that they have developed and invested in. But sometimes they use outsource one to just add more resources from time to time when they need to build more leads. Digital marketing. There are 3 components to any digital marketing effort. First and foremost, you got to build some assets. Second, you're going to have some way to distribute those assets. And the third is you're going to look at the results, and you're going to measure constantly in a closed loop to see what you're doing is working or not. Otherwise, there's no point in doing digital marketing. We don't have time for this, but I just want to kind of give you high level. This all the way from, assets are like your website, your social site, if you have a mobile app, any kind of content you are creating, your customer database, your earned coverage, your partner relationship, your reviews, trade shows, meetups, and then various tactics and distribution, and then your measurement. A lot of things are free in here. If you like, Google Analytics is free, but you have to build the website, and if you advertise in LinkedIn, you will get it, LinkedIn Analytics also for you, but you have to pay money for doing that. And PR, again, people say PR is free. It's called earned coverage, but in reality, it is not, because you're going to need a PR professional to help you unless you happen to be a PR magnet already. So therefore, you got to decide what are the things you are going to need to do initially to get your customers, where your customers are hanging out, how you can reach them the fastest with the lowest possible cost. You can't do all of this. You have to do only a portion of this, depending on your analysis of your customers as to where they hang out, what kind of messages work, and how are you going to communicate that to them. And let me tell you something. In fact, let me ask you this. How many times do you think it needs, how many times do I have to touch somebody before I get them to respond back to me? It
7.
used to be, yeah, it used to be 3 to 7. Now it is 7 to 11. You have to do 7 to 11 touches before somebody responds. I mean, interestingly, even if you know somebody and they're your friend, there are many times they intend to reply to you, but they may not actually end up replying to your first email, maybe even second email. I know a lot of us take it personally, but you shouldn't. Look at the amount of in-mail, the junk mail that we all get. And we say, oh yeah, I'll reply to that person. And suddenly I'm out of your first screen. And now I have out of your mind. So it's okay to send a reminder. There's nothing wrong with it. That's how the world works. So you got to just accept it. But the thing that is important to understand is you have to nurture your leads. Just getting a lead and not following up will give you no result. And what I found in my experience is if you touch somebody, i.e. meet them in face-to-face, you had good discussion. Yeah, I know not in today's times, but generally, likelihood of them to be able to say no to you is harder for them. Next up is phone call. Third is email. Social media, I will always ignore you for a long time. That doesn't mean I don't need to touch you on these things. I may have to touch you in all of these things until you start opening my email or until you start picking up my phone. So this is something you have to be prepared for. And if you're not prepared for this, not dealing with this, B2B sales is not for you. You won't be able to sell. The reason you are doing all these 10 sales, and a lot of times I get entrepreneurs tell me, hey, I'm just going to hire a salesperson. You know what? It doesn't work. The first few sales, maybe not the 10, first couple of sales is the job of the founders to do. Because most of the salespeople you're going to be able to hire in the market, if you can't tell them what worked, if you can't document the process for them, they won't be able to sell for you. So it is really, really important that you can document your sales process. You can understand your customer. You can understand their journey. You have to be able to figure out, hey, I tried LinkedIn and Google search and Facebook. You know what? I got Facebook turned out in thousands for me, but not a single one ever converted. On LinkedIn, I spent the same amount of money. I only got 50 leads, but guess what? All of them converted, or half of them converted. So therefore, now you have a theory. Where are you going to find your suspects? I don't call them leads. They're not leads yet. They become leads once you have qualified them. Now, qualification, initially, you will probably use a phone call. You will probably reach out to people. But over time, you cannot afford to do that. You have to build a website which is going to actually qualify them, which is going to act like a salesperson would in a store and ask these questions. Like when we make people fill a form, what are we doing? We're qualifying them. We're asking them, give us your information. And we are getting ready for doing the follow-up with them. We are going to nurture them by different content that I'm going to sell you, by giving you something that you would want. Don't try to sell any product direct, right? You are trying to understand, what is my problem? What is the message that resonates with me? Have you built a white paper? Does that work for you? All of those things are required. And that is what I am trying to figure out the whole process. You will figure out if your product should sell for $1,000 or for $100,000, which means if it is $100,000, you can use an outside salesperson. But if it is $1,000 product, you're only going to use inside sales. So these are all the decisions that you are going to encounter and come up with by the time you end up with your first 10 customers. And that is why it is really important. Now, those 10 may be less depending on the type of business. So let's talk about that. So as I said, founder-led sales are the first 2 to 5 in an enterprise. The goal is to learn the sales process. Should I hire sales? The answer is probably no. But you need some marketing toolbox. You need some basics that I said. Without that, you can't do anything, right? Because the first thing I'm going to go is go to your website or to your social site and see what you do. So you have to make sure that that is right. Next up is, yeah, you can hire a small sales team, start to put in a sales team, because now you have some goal here. So you understood some part of it, and whether this was based on your relationship or whatever learning you had, now you want to expand it to 3 to 10. So hopefully you work with the right salespeople. Don't try to hire a sales VP at this stage, because most companies do this mistake. They hire a sales VP because your VC is telling you to. VCs have never run sales forces, okay? So I am telling you, the first person should not be the sales VP, because you're going to hire the wrong person. And don't hire a junior guy and call him a sales VP either, because that will also fail. So try to hire the person who, knows how to deal with an early sales where there is a lot of uncertainty, which most salespeople don't know how to. But this is the stage where you're going to lay down the foundation. You're going to have your sales experiment that you taught this person, and you are still going to be involved in the sales process, but somebody else is running the process, but you are helping them. Then after this, you can now you're ready to have a process, which is what you really want, your sales playbook. And now you can hire the team because you know what kind of people you want. And you are now going to invest in marketing, and you're going to start worrying about, what is the cost of my customer acquisition? Is this too high? How do I control it? Don't worry about it in these 2 phases. It doesn't matter, because if you don't get those 10 customers, you won't be around to worry about these parts. But at the same time, don't overspend it either. Spend wisely. This is one typical sales funnel of a company I worked with. Just to give you a sense of it, they were selling a low-end product, like $100 per month kind of product. With 10,000 visitors, they were able to qualify about 1,000 of them. Then they converted it into what I call a marketing qualification wall, called MQL. They got 500 prospects there. Then they handed it off to their sales. And after sales called them, they called it a sales qualified lead, which were about 125. Then after all the follow-up, they got 60 opportunities out of this, out of which 30 became a customer. And in today's world, if you cannot get customers to love you, not just like you, love you, a portion of them, you will never be able to expand your sales fast. And in fact, this number for them was 5. So from a 10,000, you got to 5 customers who really loved you. And you know what? Each of those customers is worth their weight in gold, because they will be willing to refer, they'll be willing to be your reference, they'll be willing to talk about you, and therefore you want to treat them like royalty. Let me close with this, and then we'll take questions. 6 steps to building B2B sales engine. Target accounts. Number 1, companies you want to target and why. The personas you want to go after that are in the buying cycle. Basic tools of the trade, get them right. Lead gen, both the inbound and outbound. nurturing of leads in the right way, and then creating a sales process. So with that, let me stop the screen and see if there are any questions. I have some questions. When we say focus on customer, we talk about the user, influencer, initiator, decider. Yes and no. So when we say we focus on the customer, we have to understand all of the people in our sales cycle. But I want to know, is there a person who is a champion who is going to drive my process inside the company first? Because most startups succeed because they find one or two really good champions who really want to champion their product because it solves certain problem, or they're too excited about the solution for whatever reason. So I want to focus on those first, because you cannot focus as a startup on 10 people inside a company right away. So in order to get in, you want to focus on those people who are looking like they are really going to be your champions. They are going to drive your sale inside the company. And a lot of times, if your champion is not willing to go bat for you, you have a wrong champion. Try to look for another one. Okay. How do we change our positioning from an employee to an entrepreneur? Okay, great question. Now, you are now trying to sell as an entrepreneur into a company, but you are selling to that employee. So if you were that employee who you are trying to sell to, you know much about that employee as to what are their motivations. Now you just reverse that position. You're sitting on the other side of the table, but think of, if you were the user, what appealed to you? That is how you turn the table and make it valuable to you. What else? Any other questions? I have a few in the chat, but if anybody wants to, use the phone and ask, feel free to do so.
So, John, this is Atul. My question was on that entrepreneur versus employee thing. My question is, very often when you work for a large MNC, so you get used to that, that whole support infrastructure. You have your HR, you have finance, and all these things. But as an entrepreneur, when you are literally everything in the early stages, so how do you play all these multiple hats? On I try to use a lot of volunteer interns and stuff like that, but initial stage we are not very high on cash flow. How do you deal with that challenge, Paul?
So I think you're absolutely right. When you become an entrepreneur, there's no support structure, right? You have to become scrappy, and that's how you have to do it. There is no other way, right? But what is important at that time is to surround yourself with a bunch of advisors who have been there, some mentors who have been there, who are willing to help you, bring them on as an advisor to the company, because sometimes that is invaluable if this is your first time you're doing it, because, entrepreneurship journey is very lonely. You need a lot of help a lot of times along the way. So, bank on somebody who has been there, who can advise you, who can coach you on a regular basis. Somebody asked me that they had tried to book a private session, which I think were a 15-minute session that we agreed to. So if it is okay with people who actually built the asked for this session, if it is okay with them and they're willing to do it with everybody around, whoever wants to do that, let's take them first. And then whoever says, no, I don't want anybody else to watch me do that, then we will probably go ahead and do that separately with them, and maybe we'll schedule it another time if we don't have time today. But so now the other question that somebody asked me, which I want to answer before doing that, is what are the building blocks in selling a service for a B2B? So I think the modes are no different. It's just the buyer is different. I in fact work with a service company where they have built their target is all B2B. And the part that we never got a chance to talk about, once you build your initial business, you got to figure out how to scale your business, because that is when you need partnerships, that is when you need other relationships. But we didn't have time for that today. So, and about the channels, which are other aspects of it that need to be looked at. And hopefully when I finish my book, I can tell you, you can read that in the book, but it's not yet done. So, okay. So whoever had scheduled the 15-minute session with me, if you are okay to do that session in front of everybody, I am fine to do that. I will share the slides, yes. We'll share the whole presentation and video as well with you, so that's fine. And if anybody wants to reach me on LinkedIn, I am R Paul Singh on LinkedIn. That's the way, and when you reach out, please tell me a little context, because I may not know, I may not remember. So please put that in the notes, that then I will know. So Rushali, I have only heard from one person about their 15-minute session. And I just wanted to ask them if they are okay to do it with others
Sure.
as well. That's fine. If not, then we'll schedule with them separately. Maybe do the ones that want it private to the end. Okay, so Anu says she's okay to do it now. So go ahead, Anu. Why don't you ask your questions, and then maybe others will also get some value out of it. But so the formal part of this presentation is over. What we are doing now is we had said that we will do up to 4 people will take they can bring their problems and we'll try to address them. So there are 4 people who signed up for it. And if anybody wants to stay and listen to them, that's fine. And if you want to go, I understand that completely, won't be offended. So first up is Anu, you had a session on this topic, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to give you the screen and have you ask your question and issues, and then we'll try to answer them.
Okay, sounds good. So
turn your video on, please.
Let me try to do that.
All right, cool.
Can
I think you're in the dark, but that's fine. We'll listen to you.
Okay, great. So we are a startup, as I mentioned earlier, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a good product market fit and that we have at least a few customers who have signed up on our beta as we on our alpha rather as we start working with them. And so it is imperative for us to kind of start working on the sales right away as we are starting to work on the engineering of the product itself.
Absolutely.
So make the tweaks, we can make the edits, make sure that the product is likable, lovable.
I call them design partners, but okay.
Design partners. Yeah, that's a great word. Yeah, design partners. So I was wondering, like, I've done a few cold calls and I've found a couple of quote unquote customers who would eventually become paying customers. Right now, however, they're going to, go in for a free ride, right?
That's
And
fine.
many people have like advised me to not do that. I don't know.
No, wrong.
Okay, so it's reasonable to have at least a few people who are in for a free ride, and then possibly convert them to paying customers later on.
It depends how expensive is your product and what problem does it solve. So let's start with that first.
I don't know. So I'll get to that in a second, right? So the question that I really wanted to ask was, what might be a good size? What is a good number of customers that I should look for?
Again, it depends on your product. I cannot tell you that without knowing what problem you're solving. If your product is going to be bought one at a time by individuals putting their credit card, you probably need 100 customers, right? If it's a $10 per month product, you probably need 100 customers to verify that there is indeed a business here. If your product costs $100,000, maybe I need 5 customers to verify that this is indeed a business. And if your product costs maybe, $5,000 a year, maybe you need, maybe 10 to 20.
I see. one of the critical problems of sales is pricing your product right, and you kind of alluded to that, and that's one of the questions that I have written down. uh, how do I price my product? Like, um,
Let's first talk about what is your product and what value do you provide, right? Then I can tell you whether it is worth something or not to somebody,
so
right?
we are building a suite of remote productivity solutions,
Okay, so
uh,
you're building a suite of remote products, which will do what?
which will allow the users to, I don't want to like completely give away what the product is,
That's fine, but
because
tell me an approximate area so I can tell you.
so our product will allow people to work remotely, for people who are not able to work remotely in the past for
Okay,
various reasons. Compliance is one of the reasons, right?
got
And
it.
we 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 empower such people um, to work as if they were in their office.
Okay.
Um,
And but these are people who are like, I don't know, maybe someone
IT
who's
productivity,
working with, huh?
IT. We are going to start with targeting IT workers.
Okay. But I mean, are you targeting people who are dealing with a lot of PII information or what?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So there are many people who, kind of dealing with PII. So it's a question of, right now I can do PII remotely if I
Mhm.
have the right tools in place.
Correct.
So there are about probably 100 companies I know, out of which about 50 of them are startups who are doing this. So you have to figure out what is your unique value that they don't offer,
Got it. Yes.
right? So once your unique value you are very clear on
Mhm.
that you indeed offer that value,
Uh-huh.
now it's a question of you trying to find the right people to go after. And if anybody is going to be a design partner, so there are two kinds of design partners you get in the marketplace, right?
Okay.
Either the design partner is going to be approved by the company itself, meaning you are talking to somebody, your product is such that it is ultimately going to be bought by a CIO or a CISO or a CTO or some very high level person who has to approve it because it costs too much money.
Mhm.
Or it has to be bought for the whole team, right?
Mhm.
In which the
Mhm.
manager's decision has to be
Mhm.
definitely paramount. In that case, the advice you got might be right in the sense that if I want to be the design partner, I want to know if I do all these things and they work with me, is the problem really severe that they are willing to work with me and also pay me money for it at some point? They may not be willing to pay you money right away, but are they willing to pay you money at some point?
Right.
But if your product is such that I'm going to be buying it as an individual users, or there are 10 or 100 users after they buy, it can scale to the rest of the company. Now
Mhm.
that user isn't going to pay you anything because he or she is going to do it on his own or her own time. They're
Mhm.
actually doing you a favor. So don't expect them to pay anything to you.
Makes sense.
So that's
Uh,
what I mean. So you have to sort of see it in that context, right?
Makes sense. Makes
It's
sense.
very hard for me to tell you without that.
No, I completely agree with you. That makes perfect sense to me. Thank you. One of the questions that I have been like thinking about is how do I price my product and price it correctly? Like, for example, you are absolutely right in that there are thousands of remote productivity solutions, thousands of them. And, you know, like I initially started thinking naively that, you know what, the easiest way to make a sale is just sell it cheap. But
No,
then that may
totally
not be
wrong.
the, sorry.
Totally wrong.
Totally wrong. Yes. So now my thinking is like, how, there could be incentive programs and things like that that I could potentially implement so as to attract the customers in the initial rounds and then, you know, keep them if they see value, you know. But
I think you need to look at the value in your own context, right?
hmm,
So I worked with a startup where they solved a problem that the company thought was really big. And these were very large two companies who thought this was a really big problem for them, that they were willing to do the development on their own.
hmm,
And this two entrepreneurs who started this company went to them and said, hey, we can solve this problem for you. And normally that product would have cost $1 million. And they said, you know what, we'll do a 200K deal with you if you sign up now.
Mhm.
And they really didn't have a product. And the company knew that.
Yeah.
They had some prototype, but not a real product.
Right.
And the company said, okay, we'll take that chance with you. Now that doesn't happen all the time because they had a relationship already in place. They knew the market, they knew the customer, they knew the problem. And if you are in that know, then yeah, you will do well. And you got to figure out who are you going to replace? Where is the budget going today, and why is it going to you? Because there is already a budget being spent on it, no matter what.
Yes. Yes.
You're just trying to make sure that that budget goes to you as opposed to somebody else. So you have to say why.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay.
Sounds good?
Sounds very good. Thank you.
And I cannot solve your pricing problem right now, right? Because pricing is a very complex piece of work, which cannot be done in isolation.
Are there any resources, like, for example, are there any consultants I could potentially hire? Like, what is the right way to do this? Because the problem is, like, if I cannot potentially talk to an interested party and kind of assess. You see, I can either copy someone else's pricing model or partner with a customer to figure out the right kind of price. But no matter what I do, there are, there are potential points of failure in every single strategy.
You know what they say? Pricing is like value lies in the eyes of the beholder, right?
Yeah.
So what is the value to the customer is what you have to think, right? If you're giving them a value worth $100,000, maybe you can easily get $20,000. But if the perceived value of your product is only $20,000, you cannot get $20,000 from anybody, no matter what somebody tells you. So you have to see what is the value. And sometimes you create a new market where the value is sort of unknown, right? And
Yes.
the value promise is what I told you, right? You got to see what kind of company you're trying to build. Are you trying to build something where you can increase their revenue? And if you say, I can increase your revenue by X, and you can actually do a proof, they're willing to share a percentage of it with you. Everybody's willing to share a percentage of the new revenue. But if you said, oh, by the way, you might have a lawsuit coming and you are exposed by $10 million because you don't comply with CCPA and I can help you comply with it. Now, the value is not 10 million by any means.
Correct.
Right? Because now they're going to say, oh, I can solve this problem by either doing this internally or I can buy a product X and a product Y.
Yeah.
So now you are trying to figure out where do you lie in that cycle.
Yes.
And then there is a third one where you can say, hey, you are spending X amount of money now. I can save you so much money. There, my example I gave you is very valid. And you got to think in that respect. Do you fit into that model or not? And then there is a market price, right? There is a price that market has already set for something like that.
Yeah.
For you to get out of it, you better have a reason.
Yeah.
So you have to fall within certain parameters of all these things, and then you decide what is the right price. And pricing is a very complex exercise. And, as an entrepreneur right now, probably you will get it wrong once or twice. It's not the end of the world. So long as you don't get it wrong. In fact, okay, let me tell you a story, which might explain everything. So I went to the startup. Investors convinced me that, hey, this is a great company. We have already done the due diligence. And we know that this product will sell on the web easily because developers will buy it for $50 a month and we will have thousands of developers just come and hanging on. Okay, great. So I talked to 2 or 3 of the prospects. They all said great things about the product. Interestingly, none of them ever bought the product. So we set up the planning. First few months, we got a couple of good customer sign up on its own. I mean, we talked to all of them, but they were willing to sign up on their own, but we wanted to know who they were. And we signed up 3 to 6 customers in 3 months, but at $50 a month.
Okay.
And the goal was that someday we are going to go up and, we'll have the CIO or whatever, the head of application development who's going to come in knocking on our door, because that was the prevailing thought. Guess what? It didn't happen, not for 6 months, for sure.
Okay.
But what we found is that there were a couple of people who were actually taking it to their boss, who was the head of application development, who actually liked our product. But most of the developers were not really liking our product because developers like to code. And we were solving the problem that they didn't have to code that much. But the manager really loved that part, that I don't have to code, I need less people, I can build my projects faster. We changed the price to $5,000 a month. In the next 3 months, we signed 3 customers.
I see.
So think of the time it would have taken for me to build that same customer base. Now we did, we got false positive because we advertised, everybody came in, people signed up on their own. We were really feeling happy, but those were wrong messages we were getting from the market. And then when we actually peeled the next layer of the onion, we found this was the other problem. And that's when we made the correction.
I see.
The good news is, as a small company, nobody knows your price, right? Even if you change it, nobody knows you anyway. So who cares if you changed?
Yeah.
The problem is if you're Amazon and you change it by 2 cents, everybody knows it, right? But you're not Amazon.
Yeah, definitely.
One day, but not today.
Yeah. Last question, sir.
Yeah.
You mentioned, like, initially when you have like a few customers, don't have a sales team, just do your own thing. I understand the value in doing that, but my concern there is, like, to be honest with you, I have to do both the engineering and sales, and I look at myself as the ideation partner. If I start doing and stop thinking, then my team suffers.
Yeah, I know what you're exactly saying. This is why I say that a single lone co-founder of a company is very hard.
Yeah.
So you need to find a business partner, someone who is willing to be, someone who you can sell to become your co-founder.
So my biggest trouble with sales is that I'm an engineer. I know how to interview engineers. I don't know how to engineer salespeople.
Well, so first of all, you're not interviewing a salesperson. That's the first mistake you're making, right?
Okay.
You don't want to hire a salesperson because that's not what you're looking for.
Okay.
You're looking for somebody who is balanced, who has done sort of different functions, who understands the business side of things, not just as a, maybe they can sell, but they're not a traditional salesperson only, right?
Yeah.
So what you're really looking for is that person who, when you describe the technology, they understand it. They can go at it with you at a certain level, because if they don't understand anything and you always have to explain every little thing to them, they're not engineers and they shouldn't be. But at the same time, they should have that sense of what is a good solution. And they have worked in somewhere around that market, or at least they have that grit that they can go and cross any barrier and they're willing to go make it successful, right? So you have to look for those kind of people, and this is not something you're going to just find on the web, right?
Yeah.
This is where you have to ask around. You have to work with a lot of people and people and people you might have worked with in the past and so on, and then you will get hopefully to the right person. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get the wrong person too. So these are all the problems, which is why sometimes when people get burnt, they don't take a co-founder anymore. They say, I want to do it alone. But I'm telling you, doing it alone is a very, very difficult journey. It's a very hard journey.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
So try
Thank
to
you so
find a
much.
business partner who is on the same wavelength as you, but don't go for a friend just because he's a friend.
Right. Right. Right.
Because usually most of the time when you start with a friend, they don't become a friend at the end of it. It's
Right.
only when they're not friends, you're likely to make them a friend. So be aware.
Sure.
And especially if they're relatives, definitely not.
Got you.
All right. Who wants
Okay.
to go
Thank you so
next?
much. Thanks.
Hi, Paul. This is Shabazz
Yeah,
here. Thank you.
I can't hear you very well.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I wanted to thank you for taking time for sharing your piece of advice and wisdom with budding entrepreneurs. So my name is Shabazz, and I'm founder of a company called Novaration Global, and we help enterprises improve ROI on technology and innovation spends. So we our journey started as system integrator and solution provider, and in the journey we realized that we are just spending a lot of time in building innovative stuff without having a sense of where the business is going, or what is the actual business value behind the project or the product. And this landed us to do research on a much wider level, and we found out that globally $800 billion were spent on innovation, and out of that just 150 to $200 billion were spent in a channelized way by people or companies who are in core into innovation niche, like Apple, Facebook, Black and Decker. I mean, who have innovation in their core DNA. And then that is how we pivoted, and we were using a process at just back of my mind, and we crafted it into a sort of framework, right, which is a step by step process to right from the ideation to go to market, and then to take it to scale.
Mhm.
So till now we were discussing about products, and ours is slightly different sort of model because we are into services. So my question to you is regarding the challenge that we are facing.
Mhm.
Uh, while we get the entire cycle, I mean, we have read about Aaron Ross, and we have built the entire sales pipeline, and outbound prospecting workflows, and multiple 13 touch point sort of models. The challenge with us is, unlike SaaS products wherein you send a 90-second video link of a SaaS product and then sign up for a 14-day free trial, no credit card required.
I understand.
For us it is not a similar model, because
I
our sort of
understand
model
services
is,
business, so you don't have to explain it to me. So let's talk
yeah,
about the problem.
yeah. So the challenge is, uh, uh, in our sort of model, we have to go and we have to find out what their pain point it is not niche, or it is not
Understood.
tailored to a very specific a very specific need, right? And that is the reason stakeholders are not willing to come and interact with a new company, although the value proposition is valid. And one more thing is, with our sort of model, the benefits are not immediate. It's like vitamins versus aspirin. So we are selling vitamins. So, so it's like results of innovation. Whatever ROI they will save, that will be over a period of, let's say, 2.5 years. They'll not see immediate effect in when they get an engagement with us.
So let me give you a story which might actually answer most of your questions. Okay. Because I know kind of where you are heading, because I worked with a company in a services space, and they were struggling with the same issue at once upon a time. So they were basically, what they did is they said, okay, I am going to, they were a company in the DevOps space. They decided that they were going to build a company in the DevOps services space. So they're going to do managed DevOps services.
Okay.
So they said, let's pick top 2 companies in that space that are maybe not too big today. And I'm going to partner with them and see who is more friendly with me to work. And so they bet on, there were 2 companies, Cloud Jenkins and HashiCorp, in that space when they were tiny. And They struggled in the initial phases. They had to get after every customer, convince them that they are the right company. After about 4 or 5 sales, they found that HashiCorp started bringing them into deals because they had that problem. No large system integrator was yet ready to go to HashiCorp and help them. So only small guys were going to get and help them. So they understood that ecosystem. And they can't afford to hire the salespeople, but HashiCorp can and will. And HashiCorp wants to sell its product. And if you're helping them sell their product, they'll be happy to work with you. In fact, they would, maybe not initially. It takes, few of the successes it takes before you show them that, yes, you can. But if you help them sell their product, then they're willing to work with you. So in services business, you always have to think about how can you leverage someone who's a rising star, not someone who's already risen, because once they have risen, everybody's after them. Trying to do a company today doing services around Salesforce is stupidity for a startup, unless you have a very unique angle. But trying to do it for some new rising star, so maybe even, I don't know, Pipedrive as an example, you might be better off, or Freshworks. Why? Because if they want to grow to the enterprise, they're going to need that help.
Yeah.
So if you are in this segment, figure out your ecosystem. Who do you help sell their product to? Because they can't sell their product if somebody else does the integration until you guys do the integration, because no SaaS company wants to be in the services business. So start rethinking from the opposite end, and then you will probably get your answer.
Definitely. Just a quick follow-up question. So, as you given examples about Salesforce and these CRMs, so these days, automation, robotic process automation is in huge demand, and there are companies like Automation Anywhere and UiPath. But again, the challenge over there is because people have understood the services model. Uh, is like it has come to a stage where it's like almost 85 to 90%, not as much saturation as much as of Salesforce. Uh, so I mean the point over here is that the market is getting cluttered in the kind of approach that you're suggesting. So we have tried and we have had enough use cases or examples of thinking about such model.
Have you built frameworks?
Uh, in
Or are
terms
you
of
pure services play?
So ours is a leveraging our platform. We provide
Right.
services. So,
So
yeah.
your platform is really a framework, right? In the services
Yes.
sense of the word.
Yes.
So what unique value does your framework provide might be a value that maybe others don't have. i.e., they may need 6 months to execute what you can execute in 1 month as a value. Or, because remember, if I am a salesperson for, let's say, UiPath, and now you come to me and say, UiPath takes 6 months to actually deploy. Now, if you can do it in 1 week, suddenly I might want to talk to you. Maybe not the UiPath sales guy, but a UiPath customer success person might want to. So what I'm saying is, besides talking to customer, you have to always talk to the end customer. But in addition to that, try to line up. So therefore, when it's time for you to do your sale, you have more than one person rooting for you. Otherwise, it's a very, very big slog, like lift up, everything heavy lifting all the time.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right, we had one more person. If Perry, are you ready?
We had Laura to go next.
Oh, okay. Laura, ready? Hi, Laura.
Hi. Thank you. Yeah, so as I mentioned, so I'm really just starting. I mean, I've been at it a few months, but it's a big pivot in my business. I used to be services consulting. I'm a corporate leadership development trainer. And now I'm creating a platform for team-based training. So it's leadership development and soft skills training.
Okay.
And the problem that it's solving is that leadership development programs don't track and improve employee engagement. So HR spends a lot of money on training and they don't ever really know what they get out of it. It's not tracked. And so what my platform does is specifies these are the behaviors that we train, and then through self and peer assessment, because it's team-based, over 6 months, we track and improve. We train, track, and improve these criteria, and the criteria are employee engagement drivers. So I've conducted probably 50 customer and HR interviews, customer and expert interviews at this point. And I think, problem and solution and the competitive landscape, all of that through the Founder Institute program structure. I think it's solid. And now I'm creating, thank you. So now I'm creating the MVP. I had letters of intent from big enterprises through my network, but they're not converting to sales. So, so the MVP is just about ready for proof of concept testing, and HR people, it's unique. They want it, but it's not converting to sales. I'm also creating all of the content. So so I'm not doing a lot of sales. Honestly, I thought it was just going to come through my network, and the letters of intent did, but the conversion has not. And I'm spread also very thin. Yeah.
So is it just you, or you have a team of people?
It's pretty much just me. I have a tech person from the Founder Institute program who's helping. And then I have friends, other leadership development trainers, but they have their own full-time things. So they're helping, but I have very good advisor. I have very good, 3 excellent advisors, but again, they have their own full-time gigs happening. So advisors and friends, and otherwise it's me.
Do your advisors have any kind of are they shareholders in the company as well?
Yes.
Okay. So I think, look, a lot of times the LOIs don't convert because, there was a certain time when they gave you the LOI, but now the drivers are a little different, right? And all I can tell you is you got to look for the initiatives that align with. So a lot of times in this, what I find is the initiatives really come from like the company executives saying, hey, this is important, right? And suddenly then HR and everybody else starts running to solve that problem, right? So I think a lot of times, the reason the people who gave you the LOI, they should look like a good prospect that they will be willing to buy it. But maybe they are right now not sure what you are producing, or they want to see the real product. So have you convinced any of the LOIs to be an alpha trial for you for actual, when you're ready?
I haven't. I have, so one left. One was Facebook, but she left. I'm already a vendor at Facebook, but she left Facebook. So she's now in a new job and she's gone silent. And another one has also, maybe I'm not writing enough emails. I'm definitely not going for 7 to 11, waiting for, to get a response, but so they kind of stopped responding.
Yeah, I think that is not uncommon, right? Because they have 5 other things that are ahead of what you are saying. And it's sad. A lot of people think that not responding is equal to saying I'm busy, which is not. Yeah. I prefer much. So if I don't have time for somebody, I'll just send them a little note saying, hey, please, I'm busy for the next 3 months. Don't bother me, right? That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes I actually ask people when I get this kind of like silence, I say, look, I really don't want to bother you. I understand life is busy. You may have other things that are higher priority. Just tell me that I should not bother you for next 3 months, I'm fine. Just let me know.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's okay to kind of call them and ask for this, like saying, hey, look, I mean, I know I've been bothering you and you don't seem to have time to respond. I understand that completely, but please let me know so I don't waste your time and my time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And yeah, it also gives me something to do that's different from what I've done in my other emails, something to say.
Yeah. The other thing that when you are doing a follow-up email, what do you ask them in the next email? What do you tell them?
I tell them that I'm ready for beta testing, and can we speak? Are you available on Thursday? You know, this Thursday or Friday? Can we?
Are you telling them what the problem you are solving, reminding them again?
I'm not. I'm sort of assuming they were so enthusiastic that I'm assuming they
Don't
know I
assume.
should reiterate.
Don't assume. In fact, every time you send an email, send a new content piece.
Okay.
Because that will also tell you and when you send an email, try to do it in such a way so you can see, are they opening your email or not? Are they clicking on your content or not?
Uh-huh.
It's very easy to track. You can buy any of the tools that will allow you to do that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But it is really important to see, is there an engagement or not? Are you just wasting your time?
Right.
Right? Because at some point, if it is not working, you just need to cut the cord and move on to the next customer.
Right, which I'm also doing. And, you know, but it's like interest. It's not, I don't even have anything as strong as an LOI.
That's okay. Sometimes the interest might convert into a PO faster than an LOI would ever.
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you why. Because you talk to them as an idea. Now you're not talking as an idea. Now you are saying, I have a product I am ready to deploy.
Yeah.
Very different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it as a different sale. Doesn't matter. So what I would do is I would make a list of another, whatever, 50 to 100 customers that you want to go after.
Uh-huh.
And think of it as starting the sale process again. It's okay.
Right.
And the HR community is so tight knit, right? Because, you know, you can reach out to them much easier through any one of their networks where they all hang out.
Uh-huh.
You know, there are a lot of meetups on the HR side that probably still go on, even though physical events are gone. So try to get your name out, because it is very interesting. If I am the guy who gave you an LOI and I stop talking to you, but suddenly if I hear 5 more places your name, I will start to return your email.
Right. Right. Okay.
This is human.
Okay.
That's just human.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay, that's really good advice. Make a new list of 50 to 100. Because that also will distract me from being concerned about the people who aren't responding. I'll have new activity to do, and then also to remind in the repeat emails about what is my value, what's the value proposition, because I'm not doing that probably enough.
And you have built the content, you have built new content, right? I'm
Well, when
assuming
I say I'm creating the content, I mean, I'm actually like creating the training program. So that hopefully, no, I mean, yes, in the iteration, that's what the beta test is for. But no, I mean, I want the content to be fairly consistent, but I do create marketing content.
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah, yes.
So you create that content because that content is a reminder. Here is something I'll tell you, which is what I learned, a trick from somebody. So, which is really beautiful trick. Like, I'm sending you an invite to a meeting. I can tell you 90% people send an invite to a meeting with their own name in it. And I look at that and I go, what am I having this meeting for? I don't even know. So I'm not even going to be at that meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead, if you just put a little subject, which is relevant as to why I'm having this meeting, and maybe even give me a little agenda of why you want to talk to me,
Uh-huh.
Suddenly I'm less likely to reject your meeting.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah. So keep coming back to the content and be repetitive and be persistent and create a new list.
Because it is known to you, but I can tell you they don't remember anything you told them.
That's a really good, yeah, that's a really good reality check. When you say it, it sounds obvious to me. But yeah.
We get a very narrow focus as an entrepreneur, right? We keep losing sight of, we don't know forests from trees, right? That's our problem because we get too narrowly focused on something.
Yeah.
But for others, this is one of their 50 million things they do every day. They don't care about you. I mean, no offense, but to them, there is like 9 things ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
So if you
And
want
they
to get
already
attention,
and we already had interviews and they were already experts and yeah, they already supported my process. Yeah.
And now it is time to use that interview notes to maybe even personalize a message to each of them.
Uh-huh. I do that. Yeah, I do that.
But remind them again, right? Remind them again.
Yeah, that's what I'm probably not doing is like the value proposition. Yeah, that part of the sales of this is what I've got.
Yeah.
And it's
sometimes,
objectively so much further than when I got the LOIs. I mean, there's no comparison.
so sometimes it's a good idea to play a game of chicken, meaning you can say, hey, by the way, we have these other 2 people ready to try, but I know you gave me all this idea. So I have only bandwidth for 3 companies to handle right now. I want to see if you want to be the first one. Or you want to be the third one, or should I go and talk to somebody else because you don't have the bandwidth? Fear of missing out.
Yeah, that's audacious. I'm learning to be audacious in so many ways that why not that?
Hey, what's there to lose? You don't have them already.
Right.
So might as well try one more technique. Nobody wants to miss out on anything, right? That might bring them back. But if it doesn't, you already didn't have them. So who cares?
Right. And when they ask me, oh, who are the other 2?
Who cares? If it comes to that, that means they're engaged.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. That's an entrepreneur speaking.
Yes. So don't behave like that, right? So,
yeah,
like they say, fake it until you make it to some extent. I don't totally assign to that. You don't have to go the wrong way, but there is some truth to that.
yeah. And the pressure of it, applying some pressure.
Yeah, because there is no urgency for them to act, right?
Yeah.
Their urgency is either going to come from their boss, or you're going to create an urgency by making it competitive.
Right. Okay. All right. That helps. Thank you.
Paul, just one last thing. I mean, this is a generic thing and not specific to us. We are talking about go-to-market over here and the value proposition. And we all know that marketing or any outreach activity just has to be an awareness kind of thing that, this is the problem and here is what our solution is. But in today's landscape, either it be products or services, companies are not very unique. They're either trying to do something which has already been done or do it in a slightly better way. uh, so how do companies sort of, or how do new companies overcome this sort of challenge? So just to put this in one sentence, for example, if today someone were to go out and say that, I have a corona vaccine, just a single line email would would do the work. So I I mean, yeah, your thoughts on I know there, and there's no straightforward answer to this.
Here is what I will tell you, right? There was a study done by IDEO, about what makes a company startup successful. And they said that the number one reason had nothing to do with the company or the team or the idea. Guess what was the number one reason?
Uh, I've heard this TED talk by Bill Gross, and it is timing.
It is timing. What does timing mean? Timing really means that you have to always think where the ball is going to be, right? As a cricketer, if you're a fielder, you have to anticipate where the ball is coming. Otherwise, it's going to be a 4, right? So as a fielder, that is your role. So think of an entrepreneur, you have to make a guess that the market is going to be, because you are starting today. You have to think of the market 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever, right? And when you have the preparation and you know how to deal with it, when the opportunity comes, you can grab it. Because if you don't grab it, somebody else will take it away. And generally, opportunities do come. Sometimes the markets never go in your direction. You make a bet on something, it never happens, right? But a lot of times you are using it based on certain, market conditions, and you're generally right. And if you are right on that, and you are prepared, now ask Eric Yuan from Zoom. Zoom was never that big. Zoom would have never expected, if Corona didn't come, there would be nobody. Nobody would have heard of Zoom except for a few of us in the tech business. Today, it's a household name. They couldn't have engineered it if they wanted to, right? So we all wish as entrepreneurs that this comes to us, but it is not necessarily going to come to us. That's why we need to think, what is the condition that will change, that will bring the market to us, or that will make it our market? Today it is not, but 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, what is it going to look like? Now, if you're coming into a market which already exists, it's a commodity, and you have some little doodad which is really different, great. That's another way people build companies, right? I mean, Freshworks, for example, build a company on products that already existed, but they went after a smaller market called SMB. There were a lot of enterprise products. Nobody focused on SMB to solve that problem. So the same way for you, Laura, you could think about what is it that they would be buying otherwise. They're still spending a lot of money on training, right? And they're spending a lot of money on various other HR tools. So you have to be able to tell me, hey, by the way, you have this, but you're not getting this because of this.
Right.
It's okay to remind. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, mostly they're not getting impact, right? They don't know what, they might be getting impact, but they don't know it if they are, and they don't know what it is.
No, but
yeah, and they're not getting team collaboration, which is really important right now, especially with remote work.
see, now you have a pitch.
Yeah.
Why you need my tool for remote work.
Yeah.
The remote work has produced these 5 challenges.
Yeah.
And you create a document that looks like it's an expert document, like maybe a little white paper or something that you send to them. And you quote some data. Some of it is right, some of it you will make up, which is fine. But it should look genuine. There are enough analysts who've given some data that you can use, right? Data is like,
Sure,
data can be used any 10 different ways.
I
Right?
have a ton of data. Yeah, I'm not lacking for data.
Right. You want to give them the tool to go sell your product. You're not giving them the tools to sell your product. That's your problem.
That's true. That is true. That is true. It's a one-on-one contact. Yeah. And I'm not empowering them to then take it out. And these are big companies.
Yeah.
And sell it in. That's really true. Yeah.
You can create a little case study saying, hey, here is a company which is struggling with this problem. And this, they looked at this solution A, B, and C. And oh, by the way, these were all having these problems, and therefore they went with a solution like mine.
Uh-huh. Although there isn't a solution like mine. I know I know we're not supposed to say that, and that's hard to believe, but there actually isn't right now.
No. So the way to do this is there's a strategy called, I'm going to tell you that you have these 10 problems. And oh, by the way, product 1 only solves problem A, product 2 solves problem 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And product 3 solves 5 and 6, but you don't really have anything that solves all these problems in one shot.
Yeah.
And you have the right.
Yeah.
Remind them, send them a white paper with all of this saying why it is needed in the first place.
I could even create another one pager. I mean, I could even, because I have all of that and I'm not as clearly saying that.
You got it. It's all in the message.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. We have come to the end of this, and thank you very much for, oh my God, 11 of you still stayed back. I know Varusha had to stay back. So thank you very much for putting this up. I think let's give her a big hand because she made all this happen for us. I want to really appreciate Vishali's effort in making this work for us. So thank you very much. And thanks to everybody for coming, and look forward to seeing you in another one we might do later. And if you have any suggestions, let us know and we will probably put that together. All right.
Thanks so much.
Good night.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.